All right, we are live. I am so grateful to be with my guest, Melissa Boyd. I am Karen Hall, and we are here to discuss some amazing things. Melissa, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Karen. It's great to be here.
Oh, I met Melissa at a speak event in New York. We were both speaking on the topic of faith, which happens to be one of Melissa's superpowers. She is a renowned spiritual medium and very much connected with the other side of the veil. And she receives communications. She is very intuitive. She has honed this spiritual gift from childhood. And now she helps business leaders as a luminous business coach, and she helps support causes to benefit children as well. So, Melissa, thank you again for being with us, and tell us more about you.
Yes, no, I'm so happy to be here, and it was so delightful to meet you at the Speak event. You know, I grew up knowing things, like seeing the future, knowing things that were going to happen, and for a really long time, I thought I made bad things happen. I would see people that would die. I would see accidents before they happened, and I thought, well, are my thoughts creating this reality? And I got really involved with the church. I wanted to be a priest. I was told, oh, you can't be a priest because you're a woman. So that wasn't going to work for me. But I found like love in nature and just really, and I always would write notes. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would write these notes that I would hear from the spirit people, and they would tell me things that were more real than the physical world. And I come from a very psychic family, so everyone's kind of had this type of gift before, and so my parents, so my mom, did never say like, oh, this isn't true, because I would read from my grandmother and tell her about her grandfather and her family that no one ever talked about. So I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would roll over, I would take a pen and paper, usually crayons, and I would write down this note, and I would say to my mother, we need to go to the store. I have to go to aisle 5 by 3 o'clock today. The lady in the red hat's going to be there. I have to tell her about her husband. She wants to kill herself and she can't. She needs to live because she's going to get remarried. She's going to have more children and they're going to help change the world. And every single time I rolled out of bed and wrote these notes and delivered them, it happened. And I kept this secret for a long time. So literally, I have delivered thousands of letters like this. I've sent letters across the country to people I've never met, but communicated with the spirit world. And it was really overwhelming for a long time. And I thought, oh, I can't do this. So I ended up going into public policy. I got my master's in public policy and management. And I was going to, be a senator someday, which I
Yeah.
never did become a senator, but I still do deliver messages and I still do that same process with everyone who sees me. I do the same process. I say the name, what time the person's coming, and then just rivers of notes come through my body. I write them, and when they come, I show them, and then we add on top of it.
No wonder we connected because I receive messages for people too. And I sometimes I've never met the person and I will just tell them what I think. And sometimes I do know them, but I'll tell them things that I see, in their future. And I've had people say, you are so out to lunch, there is no possible way. And I remember this one man that I did this to, and I told him the path. I said, this is going to happen. And then this, I said, he wasn't able to get a job in the town that he wanted. I said, you're going to get a job there. And not only are you, he was a teacher. I said, not only are you going to be a teacher there, but you're going to become the principal. And he just laughed and laughed. And I said, and you're going to become the principal, then you're going to become the superintendent. And he just laughed. I told him all the different things that would happen to him. And so I stayed in touch with him for, 30 years or something. And so every time I'd see him and another milestone would happen, I'd say, and he'd say, I know, I know.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'd
Oh my
remind him,
gosh.
there's more coming. But when we don't have hope in the future, and someone else has hope for us, we can lean on that and hope in their hope. And so
Oh, absolutely.
you gave people hope.
Yeah. It's and I love the way that you told your story, because so many times, I think, people listening, or even us, you get this information, and it's like this it's just so clear. It's like a strike of lightning, that that it's going to happen. And and I think that one thing I've learned over the years, and I'm sure you have too, is I just trust exactly what's coming through. And I say to people, you don't have to believe this, but that there's these pieces in your life that are coming forward for a reason, to teach you something. So just lean into it, because it can be like threads for them to move forward in their lives. I
Right,
think we
right.
need that. We need that right now.
Oh, we do need that right now. We absolutely need that because we need more clarity. We need to have more guidance in our life. And I think that we are all starving for spirituality. And I appreciate so much your courage to use your gift, because so many times people have those gifts and they don't want to use them. They're afraid to use them, and they aren't received well when they use them. And so
Right. Exactly.
yeah, that can cause a person to not feel safe sharing those messages with people. And so how
Yeah.
courageous of you, because I know you were motivated by love for that other person and wanting to bless their life.
Yeah. It's true, and I think, you talked about the work I've done with youth agencies. And so I told you I was really involved with the church. And it was funny, because when we got to speak about faith, I almost told this story, which I'll tell now, obviously a quarter of it. But I taught Sunday school. I got really involved with the Bible. And I was 16 years old. I taught Sunday school in Western Massachusetts. And my Sunday school student, who was 12, was murdered by a serial killer. And it was such a painful experience for everyone involved. And, dealing with the aftermath of having a child murdered, brutally murdered, um, was shocking. And it wasn't until years later, 10 years later, that the man who murdered Jimmy was captured, because he was trying to abduct another child. And he's been connected to at least 5 deaths, if not 10, on the East Coast. And he's Louis Lent still in prison. And but the love of hearing from children from the spirit world has always been something that I've done. So I've worked with the Center for Grieving Children. I literally wake up and I will call a police department and tell them where a child's body can be found. It's just, I have this connection to these children, and I feel that they have so much love to teach us.
Oh my goodness, that just touches my heart, because they want to comfort, those who are left behind and who are grieving for them, and to even know where their body is, so that that family can have some closure and put their
Absolutely.
body to rest. What a gift that you give to not only the family, but to all who are involved, to the legal, the law enforcement who want to resolve this, who are working tirelessly to have you come in with your gifts and add this additional knowledge from the other side. Have you had people be in the law enforcement be skeptical of you, or do they just say,
You
thank you,
know,
please
it
tell me?
in the beginning, I did, but it was funny. I would wake up sometimes and I would call, for some reason, just I would call places like in California, and I would call this police department. I would say, "I know this is strange," and this was maybe about 10 or 15 years ago, and they would say, "You're the fourth medium to call in the past day."
My
Yeah.
word. Oh
So
my
I
word. So
feel
you're
like these
valid. You were
kids, yeah,
validated.
these kids, who have been murdered or have things happen, they want people to reach out and to know. So I do think that, you know, um, that they're much more open about it. I think they
That's
are.
That's wonderful, because I
Yeah,
know, when and that child is probably reaching out, like you said, to numerous people. Which one is going to be the one that I can count on to speak
right.
up and to say something? And this reminds me of the comfort that we can have, because that child is able to put things in perspective as well when they can let their family know that they're happy on the other side, and that
Oh,
all is well.
absolutely.
What a gift. Tell us of some of the messages that the children have sent to you.
Yeah, it's so funny. You're reading my mind right now. So I did a fundraiser for the Center for Grieving Children, and we had about 80 people in the room, and they all paid to give money to the Center for the Grieving. And there was a woman who was there in the room, and she was a woman who had come to see me before, but I'd never seen this energy about her. So I started and I said, there's Jessie is here, your grandmother Jessie. And then I heard a whisper, and Jessie. And I said, Jessie and Jessie. And she just looked at me and she just put her hands over her face. And I said, well, this girl, Jessie, she wants to play the piano and she wants to stay on stages and she wants to help people. But she especially wants to thank her father for their forgiveness because she was murdered. And Jessie ended up through me telling the story to the whole group and especially to her, kind of her aunt, that when Jessie was murdered, her father went and forgave the person that had murdered his only daughter. So
Oh,
Jessie Blodgett was murdered and brutally murdered by a friend of hers. And she was this incredible light. She was 19 years old. And Buck did something that many people could never possibly imagine. He started a foundation called Love is Greater Than Hate. And he
oh,
goes and he works with people all over the country. And he sits with people who are really angry, people who are getting out of prison. And he says, in that one conversation I had with him, he said, I asked this guy, how angry are you on a scale from 1 to 10? And he said 100. And this man was going to be getting out of prison, and he's like, you're going to get out with 100. And he worked through this whole forgiveness program and he was able to forgive himself and the system that he got caught in. And he's all about love. So I think that the children spark love. So Jessie, her message, just sparks love and joy and just, this river of like unbelievable peace. And I'll tell you one more story because it's a really fun one. So I used to get these groups of people together and we meditate. And then at the end, I would do some sessions. And I love skeptical people. Let me just tell you, I love skeptics because I'm also skeptical. So I'm always saying to the spirit world, you can bring in energy, you can bring in evidence if you listen really deeply. So I had this man in the back and he was very skeptical. And I said, your son is here. He loved to fish. And he's like, I said, no, he loved to fish. And he's like, yeah. I said, well, he loves this logo. So I don't know what you're talking about, a logo. And then before I brought him in, I also said, your son says he missed the turn. He didn't see the turn. And he had actually just gotten his license within the past 6 months, was coming home late at night, was driving, and he missed the turn and he hit the tree and he died. Well,
oh,
his name is Thomas. Thomas loved to fish. And in fact, his father didn't realize as I was saying that he had a bracelet on that he had just made. And it said, he loved to fish, literally on the bracelet with with a symbol that had a fish, because Thomas was one of the number one bass fishermen in his age range in the state of Maine. So,
wow.
I know. And so over time, what's happened with this family, because I've worked with them and I've done fundraisers to raise money for Thomas and his legacy, is his wife came to a session, Aaron and Sean. They came in my office and I picked up a piece of paper and I said, buy the camp. And they just about fell over and they said, we just got offered to buy a camp. And we were like, we can't buy a camp. But Thomas said, buy the camp. So now there's this 22 acres land in Maine where Thomas, it's all in his memory. So people can come and learn about orienteering and fishing. So these kids, they're teaching us so much from the other side and they're inspiring us. I mean,
They
really bringing
are.
a lot of hope.
They are
Yeah.
inspiring us. And when a child is killed or murdered or something, like that. It's such a loss because you don't expect to lose a child. It's an aging parent. That's different. That they've lived a full life, but the loss of a child and the loss of that promise and potential, and especially when it's brutal, is so difficult and such a huge loss. And as a parent, we just adore our children, and so to have that kind of a loss takes a great deal of forgiveness, and I can see why those children would be so involved. I've talked to numerous parents whose children have come back to them to help them to cope with the loss, and to let them know it's all okay. Things are going well. I'm happy here, and I'm with you. I'm still with you, and that's such a beautiful gift to know that they're not in some faraway place, that they're right here by us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
it's amazing. And as we're talking, this is so I have to show you this because we went down to this one area and I said, this is where Thomas liked to fish. And we could feel the energy. And I said, I think he's here somehow. So this picture right here was a big orb was right over the lake, right where he would go. So, speaking of orbs and energy, they're all around us if we just pay attention.
exactly, exactly. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I love to remind people of, is that they're right here, right by us. They're not somewhere far, far away. And they're so involved in our life. I remember reading a story about there was a man that died in an accident, and he had one of those near death experiences. So while he was dead, he went to go visit his while he's on the operating table and they're trying to revive him. He went to go visit his father, and he was whispering
Ah,
things in his father's ear, and he told him to call his wife and to tell her all the different things. Well, the wife, so he did, the father did, he went and called the daughter-in-law, and anyway, got to the hospital, and he's with her, comforting her and everything. Well, they brought him back to life, and when he was talking to his dad, he said, the afterlife is so real, Dad. He said, when you got that message to go and call my wife, that was me telling you that. And he was like, yeah,
ah,
yeah. And he said, it was this time, you were doing this when it happened. You were sitting in this desk, you were around these people. This is what was being talked about in the room. Nothing he could have ever have known about. And he had never talked to his dad about that moment, And so
yeah.
when I was reading about how real this is, and how he was even so impacted, he didn't realize how intimately we are connected with the souls on the other side. It made such a difference in his life. And I remember when my dad passed away, I felt him so close that night, and I
Mm,
didn't get I didn't get to say goodbye to him because he passed away fairly suddenly, and my mom forgot to call me, and I live out of state, and
mm,
so she was just frantic with everything that was going on because it was so sudden. And so I felt my dad so close to me because I
oh,
missed him so much, not getting to say goodbye, and I have felt him so often guiding me and telling me things, and letting me know it's going to be okay. Don't worry about that.
mm,
It's going to be all right. And those are massive sources of comfort in my life. And so I know that for you to deliver those messages brings so much comfort and so much peace to other people, to know that it's not just some dark abyss out there, that their child has just vanished, that they're still alive.
yeah, it really is. I've been doing this since I was 5 years old, and it's just been such a gift. And it was really scary to come out as a medium. I actually came out as a medium on a television show. I
Wow.
I was a commissioner at one point, and then I was a lobbyist, and I was on a show talking about healthcare, and we were discussing the idea about, public health and how people can take care of their wellness and everything. And I started adding in things about, you know, sage spray and different things they could do to kind of open up their energy field. And then I said, well, as an intuitive medium, everyone went, what? I was debating all these senators, and they're like, you're an intuitive medium. And I was like, well, we're all energy. And if you could drink more water and you could think this way and do these things, wouldn't it be different the way that you voted on things? And all of a sudden, um, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to the state house tomorrow. I'll be fired. My job will be gone. No, all these senators come up and they said, may I have a session with you? And these were some pretty angry people. They were really angry. And I just said, yeah, meet me, in the cafeteria at 7 o'clock tonight, and we'll sit in the corner and I'll do a little reading for you. And I would sit and hold their hands, and their mother would come through and apologize for her anger and bitterness and her alcoholism. I saw the person the next day at the state house, and they were like jovial. They were giving a floor speech. And I thought, wow, there's something to this. Like, what if I could touch more people doing this? And I didn't even get the chance, because my lobbying career, I got so many people that saw me on television asking me for sessions that I just started doing it full time. And that's
Wow.
kind of how I ended up, really coming out as a medium, if you will. So it was a pretty great thing. And I do feel that more and more people, as you know, as the queen of empathy, understand that more and more people are starting to value their own intuition, their own energy. And it's an interesting story to tell you is that I was working with, I'd been trained before to work with CEOs. And so then they hire me to come in to work with them on, their energy system. And they were kind of like, oh, Melissa, this is so dumb, right? They came in the room, they were kind of just, but if I came in and I was talking about strategic planning and writing their campaign, they weren't like that. So then I said, as I'm talking about the chakras, they're kind of laughing at me. And I said, all right, I want you, everybody take their shoes off. And I want you to stand and open up your arms and hearts. Now, close your eyes. You have to make a really big decision, a really big decision. Breathe into your spine with your eyes closed. Show me where you feel the decision coming from in your body. And they either went like this, they went like this, or they touched their solar plexus. And I said, stop right there. And I pulled a map down and I said, you just touched the chakra system. And they went, what? That's something. And I said, imagine if you can tap into that energy on a regular basis. You think this is silly, but no, it's not. You can start to understand that your body has energy, and there's an energy science behind it. And once you
Yes.
can drop into that, you'll be able to do anything. So now they call me and say, can you come do that thing with us again?
That is so incredible, because as leaders, so many times, first of all, many times I have found in my coaching experience with business leaders is that many times they are such skilled and amazing entrepreneurs because
Oh,
they have some pain in their life that they are striving to overcome, and many times excelling in the world is one way that they are able to do that, and that helps them to kind of forget about the pain that they have dealt with, but it's kind of underlying oftentimes in there, and it holds them back in some ways. And so for you to come in and have this reading and tell this leader that his mother wanted to ask for his forgiveness, and to have a situation like that. So many of us have issues with family members that have gone on, and we can't resolve it anymore because they're gone. But to have you share that, and to know that that person does love you and they're sorry for what they did, oh my gosh, that just touches my heart so much because of the healing that you are providing, and that strengthens people's faith, their faith in the life after this life, their faith that love is the most important thing, that love is greater than hate.
yes,
And so
absolutely.
I love that. I just love that. And I know after we, move on and graduate from this life and move on to the next life, we receive clarity. We heal from the wounds that we dealt with in this life that we couldn't heal from yet. We're going to progress in the next life. And then we go, and then I think my greatest desire when I heal is to help my children heal. I want to teach my children everything I learned. I'll call them up and say, guess what I learned? And I know I'm going to be the same way after I depart this life. I'm still going to come and whisper things in their ears and say, I'm sorry I made this mistake, and here's what I want you to know.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy you shared that. It's such an interesting thing because, you know, I've also not only am I a medium, and I was born a medium, but I do have mentors that are from the Spiritualist Church in the UK, which is really, they have very high standards for mediumship. And one of the things that I really started to understand, um, probably about 10 years ago, is that we actually can get jobs on the other side. And I had this one woman, and her daughter was very addicted to heroin, and she ended up having a heroin overdose at 17 years of age. Now I did not know that this young girl always wanted to be a nurse. And so the mother said, "How is my daughter on the other side?" She said, "She's learning to be a nurse. She's learning everything about nursing." And she just cried. And she said, "I cannot believe this, because I said she'll never get her dream." But on the other side, she was able to, understand nursing, and to start to study that, and to really open that up. And that when she was going to come back, she was going to come back, and she was going to become a nurse in her next lifetime. And she was preparing for it between lives. And I think, we talked about this a little bit before, that, you know, 59 to 60% of the world's population believe in the afterlife now. So you and I, Karen, can have this conversation now in
Yes.
public. We don't have to be like, I think I have these feelings. Like, what do you think? And do you have these too? Now we can talk about it. And I do believe that we are in this evolution,
I do
which is
too.
exciting.
It is so exciting. I feel like the collective consciousness is rising. And it's
Mm,
really interesting. So many times when even when I interview people at the Los Angeles Tribune on events, or when I'm interviewing people on podcasts, or just talking to people, but so many times I do feel their departed loved one there at that moment. And I'll
mm.
identify that for them and say, I feel your mother here. And oh my goodness, it just brings me to tears. And as we're talking about this right now, I feel spirits with us right now. It's touching my heart, because first of all, I feel how much they love you for sharing these truths and helping people heal, so that they can have love and they can show more love in their life, and forgive things, that the wounds that they have, that were not comprehensible to them, and they didn't understand why that person acted that way, and they have dealt with that throughout their life, and they want to move past it, and you help them to do that. That's a divine gift that comes straight from God. I know that He wants you to be an instrument in His hands to help people forgive, and to be able to love, and to be able to heal. So I am just so touched by your gift, and by the way that you use that to bless other people. And
Thank you.
I just appreciate your courage to share that. And I also feel that it strengthens my faith when I know that the person is progressing on the other side, that they are learning and growing, and that they are improving, and they're healing as well. I want the best for them too. And so that helps me as well, to know that we're all a work in progress, and there's hope in the next life, that we can improve. Like, sometimes people think, well, they died with that terrible addiction or whatever. But
Right.
when they're healed, and their wounds are healed in the next life, I believe that they'll see things clearly, and then they can choose if they want to still be an addict or not. But most everyone, I believe, that is healed and feels the Lord's love for them, and is able to forgive the other people that have wounded them in their mortal life. I don't
Yes.
think they need the addiction, because I think that when they forgive, they let go. And
They
that
do.
is massive, to be able to let go. Most of us, that's one of the hardest things, is being able to let go, because the thing that happened, we see all the evidence of it right here, but we don't really understand it, because we don't know what happened before them. And the intergenerational trauma, we can't really understand it, because we weren't there. We don't even know those people, but to know that there's healing that is going on, then I feel like they want to come and help us heal as they're healing. So thank you
Oh,
so much for sharing that
oh,
beautiful, beautiful
absolutely.
message. It's awesome. So if people want to get a hold of you, Melissa, and I know you do these readings for people. Do you do it remotely, like this, over like
Oh,
a Zoom
yes.
call?
I actually prefer, I work worldwide. And it's funny I say prefer, but people like to come in the office. But for me, it's like, closing my eyes. I close my eyes a lot, or I won't look at the person, and I just listen. you know, yes, I do phone, Zoom, and in-person sessions.
That's
But
beautiful.
the thing about the phone sessions is I can say to someone, your mother knows you're sitting in the wheelchair looking out the window at the chimes that she gave you. And I think the evidence, and if the person was on Zoom and there was chimes behind them, it would just be, but I think that evidence is important. So yes, they can find me at growyourknowing.com. And I also am on the Mind, Body, Spirit FM podcast network.
Yeah, so I encourage all of you to find Melissa Boyd and knowyourgrowing.com. That's her business, and she's the
Grow
founder
your
of that.
knowing.
Grow Your Knowing. Grow Your
Grow
Knowing.
your
Sorry.
knowing. Grow your knowing, and then you'll know you're growing.
Yes, you will. And my soul feels so happy because I feel souls with us. And I feel souls that are grateful for you, Melissa. And I feel that they are cheering for you and they are so grateful you listen. If I was on the other side and I was trying to get a message to my loved one, I would be thinking, who can I tell it to that would listen and would hear and would deliver it? And I would be so thankful for you, Melissa. And so
Oh,
I just want to thank you for all of those souls who are grateful for you, for all of the mortals who are grateful for you, for delivering those messages and for being an instrument in the Lord's hands, for being his mouthpiece to deliver those messages to help people heal. It's a beautiful, beautiful gift and a beautiful mission that you have on this earth.
thank you. And you
Thank
too.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for being with us. We look forward to another episode on the Hero Within and the Empathy Advantage. We'll talk to you soon, Melissa. Thank you so much.
Thank you.